Hi, my name is Dennis Dennison. Thank you so much for joining me today as we discuss families and family values. I was raised in a large, non traditional family that passed traditional family values on to me and my brothers. If this introduction seems like a contradiction in terms or confusing, it may be due to recent and growing public discord revolving around some of the terms I used to introduce myself. I want to share with you a different point of view of these terms, the terms traditional and non traditional, as they relate to families and family values. We'll begin by examining the typical definitions of traditional and non traditional families. According to a December 24th, 2014 report from HuffPost.com, a traditional family is defined as a family with two heterosexual parents in their first marriage. What that means is that a non traditional family then would be any family that was the head of household was a grandparent, a single parent, a homosexual parent, or even two heterosexual parents that are on their second marriage is a non traditional family. Um, like the one that I was raised in was that way. It was my mother and father were each on their second marriage. So it was a non traditional family. PewResearch.com posted on their website on December 22nd, 2014, that fewer than 46% of children are raised in a traditional family. That means that 54% of children are raised in one of these non traditional one parent, grandparent, homosexual, or second marriage types of families. And so the common divisive opinion is that the rise of these non traditional families has created a rise in non traditional values or a slide in traditional family values. And so let's go back. Let's go back to the introduction where we say that I'm from a non-traditional family based on these definitions that passed on traditional family values. How does someone come to that conclusion? Um, and can families be defined as traditional and non-traditional? And should values be defined as traditional or non-traditional? To kind of help us work through these definitions, we're going to go to an example here. The example that we're going to use is the government, because everything gets easier when you involve the government. So what we have here is we have one government that's a democracy. We have another government that's a communist government. The one government pushes democratic values. The other government pushes communist values. Well, which values are the traditional family values? Well, the answer is it depends on who raised you. If you were raised in a family that valued communism, that was passed on to you generation to generation, then your traditional family value would be communism. And if you were raised in a family contrary-wise that was a democratic family, that family value wouldn't be based on the marital status of your parents. It would be based rather on where did you receive that family value. Did you receive it from your family, or did you receive it from some outside or non-traditional source? So a good example of this is illustrated on the television show All in the Family with Archie Bunker. It's a traditional family. Archie Bunker and his wife Edith are a traditional family trying to pass their values onto their children, Gloria and the meathead. And the, the non-traditional values that their children are embracing isn't based on the marital status of Archie and Edith, but rather it's based on the fact that Gloria and the meathead are taking their values from other people and not receiving them from their family. It's the delivery system of the values that made the values traditional family or non-traditional family values. So what are these places, these non-traditional means that have populated recently in passing out values? We know the news media is one. Video games is another popular one. Television and movie productions coming out of Hollywood are used used all the time to promote non-traditional family values. We see this in the surprising movies that are marketed to children with little to no positive values present. CommonSenseMedia.org is an invaluable parenting resource for checking content for Hollywood productions. They score movies and television programs on a 0 to 5 scale based on violence and language and positive role models and positive messaging. And recently they graded a movie adaptation of a comic book superhero a 1 on positive role model and a 5 on sex and a 5 on violence. And so the rise in non-traditional values, or the decline in traditional family values, doesn't have anything to do with the marital status, but more to do with the non-traditional delivery systems of these values. This makes even more sense when we just hold it against a common sense approach. Who is more likely to deliver a positive life value to a child? A loving but homosexual single parent that loves that child, or a news media that is bound to by telling the truth or bound by selling commercial airspace? Well, obviously it would be the parent, again, regardless of the sexual orientation or marital status of that parent. But family values are important. We all agree that family values are important. It's just whether or not it's better to label family values as being traditional or non-traditional, and whether or not that's divisive in itself. Whether or not we're being divided by defining people's values as being traditional and non-traditional. And so before you think to yourself, well, hey, this guy's attacking Hollywood and he's attacking the media and he's attacking these non-traditional sources. I was born in 1977 and I was raised on Sesame Street, and Mr. Rogers was my neighbor. And so I know what it is to have values delivered to you by a non-family medium. But I also know that having a family pass those values generation to generation and having that outside medium reinforce those rather than the other way around is important. Before you think that I'm biased in this discussion, because I'm coming myself from a non-traditional family, as I said, like I have something to gain by promoting non-traditional families. I'm currently in a traditional family. I'm with my one and only wife, raising our 2 children in a traditional family setting, passing our values on to them in the traditional family way. So in conclusion, there's a divisive danger in defining traditional and non-traditional values with the same definitions as traditional and non-traditional families. Anyone who delivers values generation to generation rather than letting an outside influence deliver it for them has delivered family value in the traditional way. Consider ancient Greek philosopher Aristotle, who wrote, "The family is nature's first established association for the supply of mankind's everyday wants." I hope our time together has been informative and thought-provoking and leads you to reconsider your own labeling of a person's values. Thank you.